She's on a bloody mission to conquer the world and find herself a hubby, and maybe she does both.
Now dig on this.
What's up, and welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know, that podcast, that show where we talk about films that are older than 20 years, or in this case, Nathan,
58 years.
Well done. I'm so proud of you.
I can still
58
count.
years. We tell you, our friends of the family, we tell you guys if those films are still worth watching today or not. And that's what we do. And more importantly, if they're worth putting on a Thursday night with all your mates, getting a bit of a cheese selection going, sitting down by the Nile, and just having a good old watcheroo.
Yeah, man.
We watched a film, a little film.
We did, finally.
Not many people have heard about it. It's called Cleopatra.
And Brenton, the reason we're doing Cleopatra is that it comes from the listener letter for the week, because as you know, if you want us to review a movie on the show, all you got to do is just write a nice email to us with lots of X's and O's, some smiley emojis.
I like how you specified it has to be a nice email.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, if you're a dick, expect dick treatment.
that's Brenton's words, not mine. But yeah, so
segue from that.
Segue from that. So this week's listener letter is from Kira, who says, "Hey Banter boys, love the show. One of my favorite movies is Cleopatra, actually, and I really love her and all that she's done throughout history. Can you guys talk about one of her movies at some point? Thanks, Kira." Which is great. Thanks for writing in. And yeah, Cleopatra's been on the list. We wanted to do it for a while, so here we are, Brenton. We're talking about Cleopatra.
1963, this came out. The 60s, what a time. And yeah, I think that's got a lot of gold in it. So
it has.
Nathan, can you pitch me this movie?
Can you pitch me the movie?
Brenton, welcome to university. Please take a seat in my lecture hall, because I'm assuming you've done several semesters at high school of ancient history.
Absolutely.
Fantastic, because you're the kind of person I'm hoping to talk about the film Cleopatra.
Oh, wonderful.
Are you familiar with the complex political interweavings of ancient Rome and ancient Egypt, Brenton?
I am slightly familiar, but I think my knowledge could be expounded upon.
Oh, well, then I've got the movie for you that we're going to be making as I, a uni professor, am writing this film. Because we're going to essentially condense decades worth of ancient history down to this 4-hour film, Brenton, that stars Elizabeth Taylor as the titular Cleopatra.
Wow.
She's on a mission, mate. She's on a bloody mission to conquer the world and find herself a hubby, and maybe she does both. maybe more than she thought.
Conquer the world and find herself a hubby.
It sounds like the best pitch for like a reality show. It's like, will she find love, but also conquer the world? Tune in next week.
Yeah, but I didn't expect to hear that from a fucking like professor. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm that cool professor that, you know, rocks up high to the lectures and is probably sleeping with a student, you know?
Yeah, totally. Turns up. All right, today kids, we're talking about Cleopatra and whether or not she can find herself a hubby. It's like The Bachelor, but in ancient times.
You know, you're not wrong, mate. And like, frankly, I kind of wish this was what my ancient history class was. So take out your bloody pen and paper, mate. You're going to be bloody taking notes during this class, because we're going to have Julius Caesar rock up to ancient Egypt, right? Yep. Cleopatra, she's fighting with her younger brother, Ptolemy, I think his name is. And they've got a dispute about who can rule Egypt. So Caesar steps in, he's like, "Oi, siblings, shut up. We're going to make one of you rule Egypt." And Brenton, you can only guess who that may be.
I'm guessing it's not Cleopatra.
No, you're wrong, mate. That's an F. You have to reset the exam.
Damn it, I thought that was an educated guess. Damn it.
Brenton, educated. But like, so Caesar steps in and he ends up staying in Egypt a little bit longer, because maybe, Brenton, this historical epic has a taste of romance in it between Julius Caesar and Cleopatra of Egypt.
Wow. There's a whole 4 hours about that.
Mate.
I'm intrigued.
There's a lot of history, mate. We're just chewing through historical events in it. And name an event in ancient Rome, it probably happens in this movie.
I really wanted to make a little slight spoiler then, but I won't. I'll wait till the spoiler section.
And that's the thing. Like, should we segue into the non-spoilers, mate? Are we going to make this movie?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because I have a question with these spoilers, you know what I mean? Because like, this is the film Cleopatra, right? It's based on historical events, mostly, I say with a big asterisk. So like, what's the policy with spoilers here? Like, because it's world events that happened thousands of years ago. Like what can we say happens? Like, you know what I mean?
I say we don't spoil the big moments. Like the big moments that happen.
But like, we can say like Julius Caesar's in this movie. So I wonder what happens to him, Brenton. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're like a kid, you're probably going to know what happens in this movie.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about like the third wheel in this movie, known as Mark Antony. Because like he also plays a massive part in it without being like, oh yeah, this is how he comes into play.
Yeah.
But we won't. We won't.
Let's start off maybe with the framing of this movie, Brenton. You know, we're walking through a museum and we see the whole fucking screenplay of Cleopatra Cleopatra made as wallpaper. And I'm looking at it, Brenton, in this historical museum, and I'm like, this feels almost like a trilogy in one movie, or even
Totally.
or even like two movies quite literally condensed into one movie.
Yeah, well, it basically is. I mean, it's got an intermission.
It does. Oh, thank God we could pee. But like, there's the story of Cleopatra and Julius, and then there's the story of Cleopatra and Mark, and like, so it's honestly, I feel like I watched like a whole fucking trilogy watching this movie. What about you? Like, was it a lot?
I agree. It was a lot. I would say it was too much.
What is it? Kate Blanchett screams and like Crystal Skull. She's like, it's too much, and yet.
Exactly. There was too much history going into my little noggin.
Brenton can't stop scribbling notes. Jesus, could you imagine if we had to like watch this for like high school? It's like, it would have been a nightmare.
Mate, that would have been a term's work, like just getting through this film in 10 weeks.
Jesus.
Like,
yeah, because you like
seriously.
half an hour classes. Would have taken like 8 fucking weeks just to watch the one movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, 2 weeks on, oh shit, we actually have to teach you something. Nathan, let's get real in the field. You know
All
what I
right.
mean? Let's get down and dirty. This movie is no good.
Look, I mean, you said it, but like, look, I wouldn't say it's no good. I don't think it's great.
no good.
Okay, well, it's no good.
It's no good. Like
Why,
really, who are
Brenton?
you going
Why
to
is it
recommend
no
this?
good? Why is this
Who-
200? Wait. Why is this 243-minute film not good, Brenton?
Okay, you might have just like hinted at one of the main reasons it's not good, because this movie is too long. 4 hours is not a theatrical. It's not appropriate, and it doesn't. I tell you what, it's not even that it's long. It's that it doesn't justify its length at all.
It's like Brenton's penis.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry, that was a low blow. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. This film is very muddled. It doesn't have a clear focus, if that makes sense.
Exactly. We're just doing all the big beats.
It feels like someone's just like read a Wikipedia article. Like someone just read a Wikipedia article. And it's just literally just going through the cliff notes. It's just like, yep, this happens and then that happens. It's like, there's no tension in this movie at all.
But here's the thing, Nathan. You say that we're just like going through a Wikipedia page, and you're exactly right. Because I would say that you're right in the sense that it's not that what happens in the film isn't interesting, right? On its own merit, if you read the Wikipedia page, you'd be like, that could make an interesting story or an
Ooh.
interesting adaptation into some film. But it's the fact that every fucking scene in this movie feels the exact fucking same.
Oh, jeez.
Now, look, that is due to a lot of reasons.
Let's go through them.
I'm going to throw the actors under the bus first off.
Oh my God.
I think Rex Harrison does a commendable job as Caesar.
It's a very interesting Caesar, isn't it? It's Julius Caesar, right? But he's kind of like this, like kind of he's kind of like this like chilled old man who kind of just goes with the flow. Like, that's not Caesar.
He's kind of got some charisma, which is like why I think his performance is probably the most entertaining.
He's cracking jokes.
Exactly. On the back of that, it's completely wrong. Like he's like some British.
Yeah,
like
it's not Caesar.
It's not right.
No.
But in comparison to the other two, which are Richard Burton as Mark Antony and fucking Elizabeth Taylor as bloody Cleopatra, they are the same in every single scene, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. If I have to hear either of those two say the word Caesar again and say it with this inflection, ready? This is how Cleopatra says Caesar the whole film. Ready? Caesar! And then this is how Richard Burton says it. Caesar!
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
And it's just, it's that.
Yeah.
It's that, the whole movie, that tone. And so it's pretty soon it just becomes a drone. It's like a drone that's lifted off the ground, right? And it's just got that dull droning sound that's like a bit too loud. It's like, and it's like every scene, it's like, and it's like, what's happening? It doesn't matter because, and you're just like, oh my good Lord, let's get some subtlety. Let's get some humor. Let's get some like interesting things happening. It's so boring, Nathan.
It's so static. And like, you're not wrong, mate. Like, you could play a drinking game the amount of times Caesar said in this movie, and that would be a fun drinking game. Jesus will get you through this movie. But like, you know what? Speaking of static sounds, that's not the sound effect that annoyed me the most, Brenton. I've never hated a sound effect in a movie before. I think I love all sound effects. But the one sound effect that for some reason pissed me off for the first time in this whole goddamn show that we do was the crowd sound effect. For some reason, they use the same kind of like, ooh, but like, I don't know what it is, listeners. Like, find it on YouTube. Google the fucking crowd of Cleopatra 1963, because I'm sure there's a fucking clip of it somewhere on the internet. And it's the most annoying crowd sound I've ever heard in my life. If I was at a fucking concert, if I saw goddamn like Flume on stage and heard that goddamn crowd sound, Jesus Christ, I'd start knocking heads, mate, just to shut them up. Like, I just can't do it.
Did you get a sense for any of the characters in this film?
You know what? Like, it's really interesting because there's two love stories told here, right? Like, we got to include in the pitch. There's the love story of Julius and Cleo, and then there's like the love story of bloody Mark and Cleo as well.
Yeah, love story memory of Mark in italics.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh
It's
my
like-
God.
And it's so funny because, like, behind the scenes, right, you can't ignore this, right? There was, like, a huge scandal at the time because bloody Elizabeth Taylor, who plays Cleopatra, cheated on her husband with Richard Burton, who she eventually married, who plays Mark Anthony, right?
And he, vice versa, he was doing the same thing. He was doing the dirty on his wife, right? Yeah. So it was massive in the news while this was being filmed. Like, massive story.
Exactly. Everyone's hoeing about, welcome to Hollywood, it's the 60s. But, like, as they're doing this, right, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, why does the second half feel like there's way more romance than the first half? And I'm like, oh, it's because, like, Julius Caesar and Cleopatra have no fucking romantic chemistry at all.
Oh, okay. I disagree. I disagree because I think it's the other way around.
Oh,
I
really?
Think I think the romance in the second half is like not even a romance. And like, and don't get me started on the first half because I think that's grasping at straws too.
Oh yeah, the second act's stronger, right?
No, it's not. The second act is like. There is like no chemistry between those two. They're always angry at each other, which is why I think they're like, I think they're just giving like.
It's very Twilight, isn't it? It's very forced romance.
Oh, it's so gothic. It's like ridiculous,
Jesus.
especially bloody Richard Burton, who might be the worst performance in the film.
You know what? Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor aren't a far cry from like Anakin and Padme from Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, I was getting some Naboo honeymoon vibes from this, mate. Like, I am going to be the best Roman general ever. And then like Cleopatra's just like, wait, I believe in democracy. And then, Mark Anthony's like, I believe only one person should be in charge. Like, it's the exact same fucking scene from Attack of the Clones.
And you know what? The screenplay doesn't help, does it? The screenplay's pretty poor. Especially when you consider that, like, Shakespeare, arguably the greatest English writer in history, wrote, like, his own interpretations of these stories.
Yeah.
Which are a far cry. I mean, like, I can say, you can assume they're a far cry better than this shit. Like, some of it just, like, is just so drawly and just so dry. And there's no, like...
It is a bit Shakespearean, isn't it? They're very stoic British acting. It's like...
It's very... That's it. It's like, there's no... Like, these are characters. These are meant to be real people. We get that they're, like, represented as deities, that they're, like... They are kings. They are queens. They are pharaohs. They are these mythic kind of figures from ancient history. But they're still people. And the script just kind of... And the performances just remove, like, any humanity from these people. So I just don't give a shit about any of them.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't care. I don't care who wins the wars. It's like... And also, here's the thing, Brenton, that I think really undercuts this movie. Like, as an adult, you know what happened. You know
exactly.
You know how Cleopatra ends. You know how Julius ends. You know how Mark ends. It's like I'm sure maybe the average person who didn't love history, sure, maybe you'd get some narrative tension. That's going, I wonder what happened to that Caesar guy. Why's his face on the coin? But like outside that, like I feel like most people, they're just like, yeah, we know. It's like we know what happens to Caesar. So like, and here's another thing as well that I don't think this film knows who's its audience is. Right? Let's think about it. If you're a history buff, you are bored shitless with this movie because you're like, we know what happens, and like the performances alone aren't picking up and making it interesting. Right? There's no real narrative tension between the romance because we know what happens. If you're not a history buff, right, and you know fuck all about these characters, this film bombards you with so many people from the day, right? There's so many fucking side characters to this. And you're like, and just to keep track of all of them, and it's just, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, it should have been whittled way the fuck down into like a really small, like, romantic drama.
Yeah. I think as well, the problem with this is because it's a historical epic, it has like no lens. There's nothing that it's focusing on.
No.
So its focus is the two men, right? The focus is on the two men in Cleopatra's life.
And how Mark Anthony's kind of like a shadow to Julius Caesar, which he was.
Yeah, that's right. So the focus is on the three of them. But narratively, in terms of the plot, there's no focus. Like, you could argue it's like Cleopatra trying to gain power, but we don't really focus on that.
No. Also, that shit gets resolved in like the first 10 minutes of like the movie.
That's exactly right.
Like,
yeah.
So like the rest of it's just kind of like, I guess the general plot is like, does Cleopatra find love? I guess that's the dramatic question, but like...
Is it? I don't think it is.
I don't know.
Because clearly she doesn't. Because Richard Burton is not a lover.
No.
He's just an angry dude.
He's just so...
He's an angry Anakin, as you've said
He's a
before.
very angry Anakin. I got so much fucking Hayden Christensen vibes. And I feel like when the film realizes this and realizes the romance isn't enough, it'll just throw in a battle or throw in like a big dance sequence or something like that.
Exactly.
It's like, we saw Ben-Hur. The audiences love this and made a fuck ton of money. Let's just like throw money at this and just make this dance sequence.
You know what though? Like, in saying that, the most impressive aspects of this film are its production design, are its big set pieces.
Yes and no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, some of the like entertainment moments, like the dancing, the banquets, like all this shit that just goes on for too long. You're just like,
there's so much shit you can cut out.
it's so bad that I get like Star Wars holiday special vibes from it, that it's just like so out of the blue that you're just like, what the fuck's going on?
No.
And why am I watching this at a point? Now, in saying that, there is some creative use of the use of the camera. There is some places in it that are like, they're few and far between, don't get me wrong. But there's moments that you go, oh wow, look at that spectacle. That's really cool. But it doesn't save the movie. It's not worth watching just for those moments alone.
And I'm so sad that the direction falls flat, because you know what this other director's work is, Brenton. This is the same fucking director as All About Eve and Guys and Dolls.
But, like, in saying that, this person was roped in.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I know. This other tumultuous, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to actually know what percentage of the film is actually theirs.
I know. When are we going to get the Snyder cut of this one, Brenton?
You stole my joke! You stole my joke! Damn it.
All I bloody do is steal
I was
jokes from the
setting it
show.
up. Damn it.
Thank you, Brenton. Thank you for giving that to me. I'll give you a joke later on. But like, it's saying the production design's good. Yes, I mean the sets are outstanding. It's like they fucking replicate like ancient Egypt, and like to do that in the 60s, that's amazing. Well done. But like, you know, and we saw 10 Commandments. It looks as good as 10 Commandments, probably better, I would say. You know?
Yeah, I'd say it's better. Yeah.
But like, in saying that, even though the sets are amazing, I thought the props were shit.
Yeah, they were.
Like, Jesus Christ, like, did the budget run out with it? Like, I've never seen such plastic-looking goblets in my life. Like, it is so
goblets,
bad.
Swords.
Yeah,
like
the swords are horrendous. Like the shields, like what happened?
Yeah,
it's like Game of Thrones season 1 did better than this. Like, come on.
There's a scene where like there's a character that is banging a sword on a shield to make like a marching sound.
Yeah,
and it is literally like the funniest image I've ever seen in terms of like the way this sword kind of waggles in the wind, the way
God.
like the shield is like got no like strapping on the back of it, and it's just kind of like a plank of wood. We can assume it doesn't really look like wood, and it's just so awkward. I think as well when you cast Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra.
Yeah.
And you know, we're dealing with a we're dealing with like Roman Empire covered so many continents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was so many people
There's a scene where they literally list all the lands that they own. Like we see how fucking vast it is.
And yet all we see really are like just white people with British accents walking
God,
around
that's
going
another thing.
toot-to-doo, let's just twirl our fake mustaches and hang out. On the back of that, like some of the extras are people of color, and some of the slaves, for instance, are people of color.
And it is the early 60s. Like we get that. We're not judging it on 2021 standards.
No, totally.
Yeah.
We're gonna, but it's worth mentioning.
It is.
But the thing we can judge, Nathan, is that there are obvious attempts at blackface in this movie that are just like so. There are so many of them. It's like pick a frame in this movie where there's not someone in blackface in the Egypt scenes. It's absolutely crazy.
They throw in like an East Asian character at one point. I'm like, what?
Oh, like
What?
it's so ridiculous.
Like it's like it is ridiculous, and like and that's the thing, because this is so British. It feels like you're watching a play version, right? You got these big sets, you got very low camera movement. It's like we're watching a play.
Yeah.
So that makes you kind of forgive the British accents to a point. But then they'll chuck in a random American actor who's just doing a blatant American accent, and it sticks out like the biggest sore thumb. I'm like, what's going on? Like,
you're not wrong. Maybe this movie's problem is consistency.
It's just so inconsistent. I just can't deal with any of it. It just feels like it's trying everything. Like the amount of fucking costume changes that Elizabeth Taylor has in this movie. It's like, do you like this one? What about this one? It's like, I just feel like the film just keeps trying to reinvent itself as we go to finally see what works.
Yeah, it's like it's proof in the pudding that no, if you throw as much money as you can at a project, right, but you still don't get the fundamental storytelling elements correct, like it's just gonna fall flat on its face, and it's just going to be this kind of thing that isn't really anything.
And it's such a shame because like there's so much talent here, right? I fucking love Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's one of my favorite movies ever. And that stars Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. So like they're here. They know how to act. And like they're great with each other. They're fucking incredible in that movie.
Also, bloody Rex Harrison, you know, we've seen in My Fair Lady. We've seen him do good stuff as well.
He starts giving Cleopatra singing lessons. Just like how now, brown cow? He's like, I'll make you a proper Cleopatra. She's like, I'm a queen. Like,
oh God, let's not do if Cleopatra should be a musical. We all know the real answer.
Don't we? It's like,
gosh.
Oh, jeez. You know what? Fuck the acting in this movie, man, as well. You know who I hated? Octavian.
Hey, funnily enough, the two performances in this film that were nominated for Academy Awards were Rex Harrison, which I can understand for Best Actor, like Best Leading Actor, and the guy who played Octavian who was also nominated.
That's some of the shittiest acting I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Hey man, at least he had some life about him.
But Octavian, I swear to God, when we were in high school, I saw better performances than this, and I got so many high school vibes.
Hey, to be fair to him though, Nathan, like he at least has some life. He at least has some energy.
A little bit too much, mate. Though he's like that kid who's like trying to like enunciate every word, and I
agree, it's pretty full on. But comparatively to like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, I think he's a league above them, and that's saying something. Oh my gosh, Elizabeth Taylor, she was terrible. She was so bad.
She was so. There's so many bad actors actors. I fucking love Ptolemy. Like the couple of scenes we get with him at the start, just being Joffrey 2.0. I'm like, he's fucking great. He's the only one who I think he knows he's in like a shit movie. He's just like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
Why isn't he doing what you said he would?
And like, he's so Joffrey, like they whip out a head at one point out of a box and they're like, oh, does this make Abby Caesar? And he's like, no, why? This is like my daughter's like fiance.
Does that please you? Does it? Does it, Caesar?
I love him.
Rex Harrison's just like, fuck my life.
How did I end up here? I'm Rex fucking Harrison.
That was a bad head prop too. Speaking of bad props, that was a bad head.
Oh mate, I feel like we're just gonna dive to specifics now. So should we just write this thing like?
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Yeah, why not? I'm giving it a thumbs down
Yeah,
because
man.
it's not a good movie.
Could you imagine? You go to a mate's house on a Thursday night and they say, "Let's put on Cleopatra." You're like, "Excuse me."
Look, there's just nothing really there's nothing in it that's worth seeing.
No.
The elements in it that I think are okay or good, I think are also in other films of the era. Like you said, 10 Commandments is a great example.
Even the last epic that we did on the show, which I'm pretty sure was Dr. Zhivago, that was better than this.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Had more emotional intelligence and stakes than this, for sure.
Oh, I would love it if, like, you know, some of the characters are dying in this movie, then Dr. Zhivago rocks up with his little med kit, just like, don't worry, I'll save you.
If bloody Sir Alec Guinness just rocks up and is like, hello there.
Let me tell you the story of Cleopatra.
Oh, dude, the narration was atrocious.
Oh my god.
It was so stilted and awkward and out of place.
I just can't. It's like, and it has like a weird thing when it's like like a still work of art. I'm like, I was bloody getting Charles Heston in a Jesus beard vibes from it. What was it? Oh yeah, 10 Commandments. I was getting 10 Commandments vibes from it. I'm just like, I just can't.
Yeah.
You know what? I was waiting for this movie to kind of segue into 10 Commandments. I was kind of waiting for Jesus to rock up. At least something would have happened, you know?
Jesus.
Yeah.
You mean Moses?
When was this? Was this like BC AD? Was this like around that era? Like when like...
No, that was way before, man.
Oh, rip. I was kind of hoping for Willem Dafoe to rock up in his little sandals. Be like, enough of this fighting.
Harvey Keitel as Judas.
That would have been great.
Could you imagine a scene between him and Richard Burton hanging out? Oh, wait. What about a scene between Sir Alec Guinness, rocking up, and Richard Burton as Anakin? And him as Obi-Wan.
Oh my god, that'd be great. Search your feelings, Luke. Search your feelings, Mark Anthony.
I want to be Caesar, but Obi-Wan's holding me back.
I tell you what, I got so much Star Wars vibes from this because like they keep on mentioning the Senate and the Republic. I'm like, God, this gives me so many prequels vibes, and not in a good way, mate.
Yeah, no, not in a good way at all.
No, don't watch this. Like, watch literally anything else. There's like, by the way, Cleopatra's been readapted to death. It's like there's so much better shit than this. Watch the plays above everything else. Like Shakespeare did this. It's better than that. Here, Brenton, here's Shakespeare's complete works. Here, start reading that, mate.
Oh, alrighty. Well, whilst I read that, do you want to talk about some spoilers?
Let's spoil it.
You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh.
There's so much that happens in this movie, Brenton. See, that's the thing. Like, is it a big spoiler that Caesar dies, that Cleopatra gets bitten by the snake, that, you know, like Anthony stabs himself? Like this is taught in school, right?
Is it?
I want to see this movie with someone who knows nothing about ancient history, just to see if they get genuinely, like, shocked at what happens, you know?
I feel like they're like, you know, even though we're not necessarily maybe taught about these events, like they're in the common knowledge almost.
They are, that's the thing. Well, you know who one of my favorite side characters was in this movie? It was the assistant to Julius Caesar, who for some reason, I think his tongue has been cut out, so he has to like...
yeah. The mute.
Yeah, the mute, which I think is like a protection thing so he can't share secrets. But I just love what he thinks sign language is, because he's doing the most like theatrical movements with his hands. I like to think that this fucker's just making up the hand gestures on the spot, and Caesar has to try and like pretend as though he's like communicating with him.
But it's so funny because Caesar like gives the most detailed response of what he's saying.
Yeah!
Oh my gosh, that's the spoiler I just remembered, because this is great because I can segue from this point you're making about the interpreter to the next point. Nathan. There's a few good entrances in this movie, but no entrance is better than bloody rolling out of a fucking rock when Cleopatra rocks up and like face plants on the floor and is like just going...
It's so stupid. It's
so sudden and ridiculous. It was probably the most shocking moment in the movie. It was probably like the biggest, like, oh gosh.
Like, that's introduction to the titular character. like, and Caesar picks it up in a heartbeat. He's just like, what's in the rug? And he goes to almost stab it, and the guy's like, ugh, don't do that. Like,
Could you imagine if that's how the movie, like, roll credits? He,
Yeah.
like, stabs the rug and
He's like,
and
"Oh,
then, like,
shit."
the lifeless corpse of bloody Cleopatra just rolls out and bloody Rex Harrison's like, oh, shit. And then, like, it just cuts to credits.
mate, honestly, when I get married, that's how I want my wife to like be walked down the
Oh my
aisle. I want her father to roll her up in a rug and just fucking drop it at the altar.
There's no aisle. They just drop it at the end of, like, the pews and just, like, roll her down. Like, and she just, like,
Oh, that'd be so good. Oh, I'd love it.
so funny.
Oh.
Too good indeed.
What's with the spasms that Caesar keeps having? Is this a thing that he like?
He has epilepsy, right?
I never knew this. I never did ancient history. So what's the story there?
I don't know what the story is necessarily, but this movie, like, they're like, the medics or whatever are like, or the doctors or medical staff are like, it seems it's a case of epilepsy. And I was like, what?
What? I'm like, okay, I didn't know Caesar had this. And at one point it turns into like a weird BDSM kind of thing. Because like Cleopatra like sees him spasm at one point and she grabs like the fucking belt or whatever and she starts tying him up. I'm like, where's this going? It's just so out of place, man.
Or our mute friend who like is the guy that like grabs.
Like the little like wooden thing they put in the mouth, like yeah.
Yeah, but what's it called? I feel like there's a name for that. Something that is used.
Right at us, listeners.
Yeah, right into the show and give us that fun.
Brenton's looking out for one, you know, no questions asked.
I'm gonna look up if he had epilepsy because like I don't know if that's a common thing.
Was Caesar a bit off?
Okay, sorry. Julius Caesar suffered from strokes, not epilepsy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, conventional wisdom has long held that he suffered from epilepsy, but Galician suggests that his symptoms were more in line with transient ischemic attacks, more commonly known as mini strokes. Okay, so there was something going on there.
There you go. Well, for some reason they drag it into this movie because apparently it's relevant. Like you know, it's meant to be a metaphor showing the pain he's in. But it's like I just can't.
I think it's also meant to be like it's like the thing that like physically links at first like Cleopatra to Caesar.
Yeah.
You know, like she goes into the box and he's like, how many spies and how many rooms do you have, bitch? And then like, she's like, I've got enough, thanks. And he's like, oh, right. And then they just make out.
She's like, I'll give you. I love that's the way that she ropes him in. She's like, I'll give you kids. He's like, I've always wanted a son. Like, it's like, she knows how to seduce, man. Like, I also love that, like, he hears about, like, her. There's one point where the characters talk about her sexual prowess. It's like, oh, she sleeps with everyone she takes advantage of. I'm like, I know that's what she was famous for, but also, I don't want it in here, man. And Caesar kind of, like, nods it off. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's also, like, the line, like, and she uses her sexual skills, which are plentiful. And it's just like, that's a weird line.
Oh, it's fucking bad, man. It doesn't deserve a place in here.
Anyway, then Mark Antony rocks up in the second half and is all like, I want to be Caesar. And then it's like they're meant to have a romantic entanglement. And like, I just didn't think it was romantic at all.
No. Also, she moves on to him pretty fucking quick. It doesn't take long.
He just whines at her and then she gets angry at him that he's not like, you know, trying to take over the world. And then he's like, I had to get married to this other woman because the Senate told me to.
The Senate. It's like, I love it when he like has a crack on her at one point. Like when he first confesses his love, like she's in bed and she's all being like bitter about it. And he can't open the bed curtains. So he just like gives up and just like slashes it open. like there's a lot of bed stabbing in this movie. Like the beds fucking suffer in this. Like the poor set designer. They're like, God damn it.
Oh yeah, like the scene where she finds out the Cleopatra breakdown scene when she finds out that Mark Antony marries that other woman.
Yeah.
And she's like, everybody leave. And everyone leaves. And then she goes, and then like gets her dagger and starts like just stabbing shit and then like starts stabbing that same bed that he used to like he used his blade to slice the curtains or whatever.
Mate, you could see the circle closing. But I did lose my shit when she walked into that empty court and the camera lingers for like maybe 20 seconds before she screams, Antony! That's so funny. It's so good.
I laughed as well. I laughed my head off. There's a few moments actually that got me in this movie. And
this film's unintentionally funny. Like, it's pretty funny at points. Oh, no, the funniest scene by a mile was when we finally go to the Senate and like Mark Antony like writes in a letter saying he's going to stay in Egypt for a bit because he's fucking Cleopatra. And like one of the senators is just like, he's like, oh, well, we better hope that Mark Antony stays in Egypt. And then like one of the other senators like stands up and he's like, well, let's better hope that you don't stay in Rome. And like he gets fucking wrecked. and everyone's like laughing at him like they're in like the British Parliament, and the guy walks out of the Senate.
That's right.
Like, it's the most like banterous section. I'm like, this is great. Just give us like shit talking for 2 hours in the Senate. I'm all for that.
Now, Nathan, there was a child in this movie, and there was a scene where Julius Caesar was teaching this child how to rule. It was a pretty unintentionally funny scene because up until that point, Caesar seems like a pretty, well-rounded bloke.
Yeah,
he's pretty normal. He's pretty
probably the most normal in this movie, actually.
Yeah, and then and this kid rocks up and he's like, "Now act like you have a bunch of slaves, son. Now act like someone's screaming for mercy, but they betrayed you. Off with their head. There's my boy." And you're just like, what the fuck is this scene? What's going on? Oh, man.
Oh, that is horrendous, man. Like, and that child actor's just terrible as well. It's like
absolutely awful, yeah.
Oh, I love it when like Cleopatra says bye to the kid. He's like, "But mummy, I don't want to go." It's like, this is the ring your father had. It's like, I don't want any of this shit, man.
That looked like the worst ring, I think, ever. Like, if you're proposing to someone, you gave them that ring. Like, shame on you.
It looks so uncomfortable. When Cleopatra was giving her son the ring, I was just wanting her to whisper to him, like, "Throw it in the fires of Mordor." And he's like, "What?" And then she just sends him on his way. Like,
keep it secret. Keep it safe.
The kid's like, "This is ancient Egypt. What are you on?" But how about that scene though, mate? Like, how about that entrance scene of her coming into like Rome? Like, because it goes for like 20 minutes.
It's a heck of a scene.
Yeah.
I know, like we have the dancers come in, we have like all these other random dudes come in, and then we have this like mini sphinx that is like dragged in by slaves, like into the center of Rome. All the Romans are like, "You, yeah."
Yeah, clear. And you have that annoying crowd sound effect. But like, I love as well how she's like sitting in the sphinx and like it just like fits into the ark. Like, I really wished that it was just that a little bit bigger. Like, it fucking knocks the ark and they can't move. Oh, I wish that would have happened. Oh, it would have been so funny. Oh,
how many scenes actually in this film are built around the fact that like Cleopatra or like whichever ruler won't like go and meet the other ruler? Like, they're like, "No, they must fucking come to me." And then like that's like half the movie. Like, they must come to me, and then they have like a little bit of thing, and then eventually one goes to the other, or vice versa. And then like it just ends with like this moment, and then like the crowd like cheers because they're together, and you're like, all right, cool.
It's like, yeah, it's just there's so many scenes you just don't need in this movie. It's like,
agreed.
And like honestly, the crowd is like the chorus, like the traditional chorus, but they just have nothing to do besides like point. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing they all do at one point. Is like, "Show me where Egypt is," and they all fucking point. You're like, that's the one productive thing you've done. Like,
oh wait, how about like the fact that the Julius Caesar assassination scene happened in like a vision?
Yeah, what the fuck? I was looking forward to the Ides of March the whole movie. I'm like, here we go. Like, let's see fucking Caesar get wrecked. But it's done so weird, isn't it?
Wait, how funny is it though that like,
we see Elizabeth Taylor like, ugh!
Yeah, exactly. Like her face like comes in and out of it, and she's getting a live screening, like a live streamed service version of like the death of Caesar,
which is so weird. They added like mythological elements into it. It's like,
yeah,
like this is not what would have happened. It's like, and it sounds so weird as well, like because you can see it coming where they're all like grabbing him on like the Ides of March and like he's being stabbed and shit. Like it kind of ruins it. I kind of wish like there was no tension. Like it's like the film knew it's like you knew that Caesar was going to die, so it just kind of did it. Like it would have been so cool if like the music ramped up, but it's like they could have done something interesting with it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'd say it was also anticlimactic, like all the battle scenes in this.
Oh my god.
Especially like that naval fight towards the end where like we're meant to believe that those are like, massive ships that are like being like there's a rowing team underneath it that are doing it.
Yeah. Mate, you
ridiculous.
haven't seen Ben-Hur, but like Ben-Hur does that radically better, and that was made like a decade before this.
Really?
Like, actually, no, that was made like 4 years before this, but like it was like so much better. And you see them all rowing about and they're sweating, and like just to turn a whole ship back in those days was such a mission, just to get it to change fucking direction. So like you really feel the tension in Ben-Hur. Here, you just see little like ship models just like throwing the odd cannonball at each other that's like on fire.
Dude, I nearly picked this as the still, but how funny is the shot where like Mark Antony's like at the helm and he's being like bombarded by fucking like trebuchets and shit.
Oh my
and
god.
Like, fireballs being shot at him, and he's just having a swig of wine. Like he's just hanging out, like taking swigs of wine. It's just like business as usual on Anakin's ship.
We're gonna call for the rest of this episode. We're gonna call him Mark Anakin instead of Mark Anthony because that's what he's doing. Like,
yeah.
I tell you what. And it's like, speaking of the fire as well, like I found it so funny that back in those days, for some reason on their map, when like they're planning on like the different ships, whenever a ship gets burnt, they also burn the model of the ship like on their map. Like, isn't that like a fire hazard? Because at one point the whole fucking fleet's on fire, so their map is on fire. Like, just take it off the map. What are you doing?
It's a bit of a waste of time. Yeah, instead of just removing like the little model off, like they're burning the model. Like, what if that whole map caught fire? then they'd be in trouble.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit. They're trying to like stomp it out. It's like, oh, that's another thing. Speaking of fire, there's a lot of fire in this movie. I was pissed when they burned the Library of Alexandria. I was like, fuck you, man.
But also like, screw off. Like that was like the fire of like, that destroyed the Great Library.
Yeah,
and, like
I know.
how they're all like, the sacred texts. And he's like going like specifically what's in there. And it's like clearly because we all know that like the Great Library was like destroyed in a fire or whatever. I was just like, come on guys, like get over this. Like, it's a good Easter egg, but let's move on.
I know. And like Cleopatra's clearly pissed, like as the audience is.
You burned down my library. And then we're like, wow, you just like say every line the same.
Yeah. Sorry about
really
that. Caesar says to her, like,
sorry about that.
he picks up the door to the library.
He like draws his sword and it's like a broken pink umbrella.
Oh, it's great, man. In general, the destruction in this movie sucks. Like, I was kind of really hoping at the end that when because we all know Cleopatra gets bitten by the snake, I was really hoping for like a full Nagini moment, like where a fucking snake like mauls her. Like, I wanted like the violence to ramp up, but it's so boring. She just kind of puts her hand in a jar and winces at one point.
How is it like as well when like Mark Antony like falls on his sword? Like,
oh my
you get, like,
god!
A bigger,
I laughed, man. I laughed.
It was quite funny.
Jeez, it's just like I wish I had. He's like, what's he? I wish I had the long arms of Caesar. It's like, man, what are you doing, mate?
And then he's like,
I haven't seen a death scene that bad since like fucking Sofia Coppola and Godfather 3. Like, it's no good, mate. Just like
I like that he lasts so long too that he gets like lifted, like literally, like
literally, we watch his body go up
and lifted up to like the temple.
Yeah,
Cleopatra's like, oh shit,
oh shit. It's very Romeo and Juliet, wasn't it? The ending.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they just cycled through all the Shakespeare tropes in this movie, hoping something would stick. It's like
also like that just went on far too long. The whole ending of this film was like too long. You were just like, oh god, get to the point.
Yeah, and like the the assistants like there with her just like dying by the chest as well. It's like, I've had enough, Brenton. I've really had enough. And you know what? Like, just like there's like interesting-ish scenes in this movie, but overall, because it's so fucking boring, I'm just disappointed.
I hear you, man.
I was kind of looking forward to a big epic like tale about Cleopatra because there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but like,
yeah, it's very disappointing. Well, hey, should we get past our own disappointment and move on to some
Special segment. Ooh, so special.
Let's reintroduce some fun to this podcast, Brenton.
Oh,
it's a serious question. Do you think this movie would be a perfect bar theme? So like Cleopatra the bar.
absolutely. Could you imagine like an ancient Egypt bar?
Oh man, dude. Oh, that'd be so cool. And like they're all bloody drinking wine and this like looks like a good time,
Yeah, man.
Maybe there's a bath in the corner.
Have some hieroglyphs and shit on the walls. Maybe there's like a garden or like, a water garden or something that it's set in, You can see like you're by the water maybe, like as in like you're by the Nile, hanging out and make some like Egyptian themed cocktails or some shit.
Oh, that'd be so cool, man. Like, yeah. And like the bartender like speaks like Cleopatra when he's like, I am the Nile. It's like, here's your cocktail.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's so
Totally.
funny. Did I ever tell you the story about how I have water from the Trevi Fountain?
No.
So I was in Italy like for a school trip back when you and I were in year 10, and like I took a water bottle to the Trevi Fountain in Rome, and like there's normally like security people like police standing around the fountain to make sure you don't like jump in the water or anything like that, but you also can't touch the water. You can throw your bloody coins in, but you can't touch it. So like when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, my parents went on their honeymoon to the Trevi Fountain in Rome, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring back a water bottle full of water from the Trevi Fountain. So we went there one day. I was sitting by the edge of the fountain waiting for some tourists to fuck up, and lo and behold, there's like I think like Chinese family were by the fountain, and one of them like tried to like dig up some coins. Like one of the kids tried to grab some coins from the fountain. So all the police kind of ran over to like pull the kid out. And so as they were doing that, I just like plunged my water bottle under the fountain and filled it up with water.
Wow.
And then I brought it in my suitcase, brought it home to my parents. I'm like, look, water from the Trevi Fountain. Like, oh my god, wow, that's where we spent our honeymoon. That'd be great. I like to think, Brenton, that at this Egyptian bar, they do the exact same thing. They get some water from the Nile and they're like, drink the liquid from the Nile. And you're like, ooh, thank you.
Ooh, salty.
I think it could work.
I think it could too. That's a lovely story. What a nice gesture. What'd they do with the water?
I think we still have it in some cupboard in our house. Like, I think it's just sitting there like water from the Trevi. It's like 10 years old at this point. They're like, that's water from the Trevi Fountain. And it's so funny because they thought, oh, what a nice gesture. But at the end of the day, it's just normal water. It's just like, it's probably just water from Italy. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the meaning, Brenton. Also because I know how fucking difficult it is to get water from that fountain.
Hey, but you had a plan and you went in there and you executed.
I did. My art teacher who took me on the trip was not happy. She's like, Nathan, what are you doing? I'm like, shush. It's for the rents.
I think who didn't execute their plan? Mark Antony, when he fucking was trying to chase down what's his face?
Octavian?
When he chases him down, mate, what a fail. That was like an epic fail of massive
Oh my
proportions.
God.
Like, holy shit.
Jesus, it's like you're one of the best military rulers yours, and like, you're part of the triumvirate, and this is your fucking plan. You just hope he's on his own ship. It's like, why do you have to be the one that stabs him? Send a soldier to do it. It's like,
Good old Marky. He got what was coming.
Would this work as a play? You've seen because Shakespeare did.
Well, there's two
right?
plays.
Yeah.
There's two plays, yeah. So I've seen Julius Caesar live.
Oh, well done. I love the way you said that. I've seen Julius Caesar live. Like, walking out on stage waving like...
I hailed Caesar myself.
You can too.
So yeah, I've seen the play live. I love Julius Caesar. It's a really good political drama.
Nice.
But it's all about Brutus and Cassius.
He doesn't even say et tu Brute in this movie. I was so upset.
I know. So Brutus features in this film.
Yes.
He's in this movie for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that play is all about their relationship and like, you know, the assassination of Julius Caesar and the aftermath of Mark Antony hunting Cassius, Brutus, and the other murderers of Caesar.
That's right, yeah.
And then, so that's that play. And then Cleopatra and Mark Antony and Cleopatra is the other play by Shakespeare, which is all about, obviously, I guess, the second half of this film.
Yeah. It's like they adapted Julius Caesar and then Antony and Cleopatra into like the two plays into one movie, which is ridiculous. Like, yeah. And you haven't seen the latter play. You haven't seen any of that. It's
no,
like,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it live.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I'd be willing to see it. Of course, I'd be willing to see it. I think it'd be a good time.
Mate, I think this would be so much better seeing. I feel like Shakespeare nailed it. Like once Shakespeare does it, it's like, what else is there to do? Like,
yeah, exactly. You're spot on. So yeah, I think this would definitely work as a play. Whether if it's a film adaptation of the play, I don't know.
I feel like it'd be better. I feel like you could take like one of the two acts of this movie and make that into a whole film and make it a really tight focus. Like maybe that'd improve it.
Well, hey, there was a modern adaptation of Julius Caesar that was done by the National Theatre. I want to say it was. Might have been something different. Please correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. And that starred Ben Whishaw as Brutus.
Oh, that's interesting.
It also had the chick that played Catelyn Stark as Cassius.
Oh, right. Yes, I can't know why I'm forgetting.
And it was kind of like Caesar was like a Trump figure. Like it was kind of
okay. It was an allegory.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of imagery kind of based around Trump, and those two were trying to out him. So it was interesting.
Okay, that'd be really interesting. I'd love it if Catelyn Stark, because she's acting in that play, and then as Caesar dies, she's just sitting there like giving that vacant look that she has when Hermione erases her memories.
What a great reference. That's why you get paid the big bucks on this show, Nathan. Well done.
I want to introduce a new special segment, Brenton. One of my favorite episodes we've done in this show was our Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure Review. And so I want to pose the question to you. Would this movie improve if we added Bill and Ted?
Yes, I think so. But I think, okay, this is what I want. I don't want Bill and Ted to go back and meet the actual Cleopatra. I want Bill and Ted to go back in time to the set of Cleopatra and hang out.
Like they knock on they knock on like Elizabeth Taylor's like trailer door, and she walks out with Richard Burton. Like they've just had sex, and like, whoa,
man, it's Cleopatra.
She's like, no, darling, I'm an actor. And they're like, you're an actor? Whoa, we're from California too.
I think that'd be a great little interlude. Why not?
I feel like it'd be funny, like Bill and Ted to speak in front of the Senate. It's like, so there's this guy Mark Anthony, and he's sleeping with Cleopatra, but like, we can step in if you want. And they're like, who are you?
What is going on?
Even Keanu now, bring him back now and just have him plump into like ancient Egypt. I reckon that'd be great.
Yeah, why not? I reckon it'd be great. Good times all around.
Add Bill and Ted. I think good things could happen.
Add Bill and Ted to anything.
Well, let's see what stills this movie.
Ooh, it's blinding.
So, in case you don't already know, what stills this film or movie is a segment of the show where Nathan or myself, or both of us together, we pick a single frame from the movie we are reviewing. We pick that on the basis of it being funny as shit, whether it has something interesting to talk about, or whether it's just a fine piece of art, a fine piece of cinematography.
Yes.
And we put that frame on our Instagram page, actually, so you can check that out with the links below.
Brenton, we've omitted a scene from our spoiler discussion that we have not yet talked about.
Oh dear.
Because there is a banquet.
Dear.
There is a banquet that happens around about three-quarters through this movie. And they're all sitting about, for some reason, Mark Anthony and Cleopatra have got like two separate tables at like the head of this like room. It's like on their own little kiddie table. But like in this banquet, all the food is being brought in for like all like the high lords of Egypt and that kind of stuff. And there's a part where they bring in this like high plate of like these kebabs, but they're like as tall as a human. And they're like, and in them they've got like the most like huge food you could possibly imagine. Like look at the size of these kebabs, Brenton. Like imagine you and I, right? We were sitting at the table where two high lords had been invited to this banquet, and we see some of this food that's come in. Like it's crazy.
Well, the thing is that's interesting is like, is this the only like part of the banquet? Like, is this just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's a bunch of people there, but you'd imagine that there'd have to be other dishes because it looks like as well. I can't tell what it looks like. There's like full roast chickens like that are on it, right? Or full roast
like
birds
a
of
full
some
chicken
sort.
is just like on this gigantic kebab that's got like the thickness of a tree trunk.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So and then what's the other thing? Is it an apple or is it like a? It looks a bit
The
larger
food looks
than an
pretty
apple,
fake,
though.
mate, to be honest with you.
It looks like plastic as shit.
Doesn't it though? This ain't the Grey Hall in Harry Potter. Like it's no good. At one point, there's like, what's the bird with all the feathers behind it that gets brought in at one point?
Oh, the peacock. There's a peacock.
There's a peacock at one point. Brenton, would you eat a peacock at a banquet?
Like a live peacock? Like if I tried to grab a bite of like something that was a living animal? No, I would not.
No.
I would not.
I think
be
it's a
doing
dead
that.
peacock though, because it's just sitting there, just like, but this does not look like a good banquet, Brenton. Like, it's also so weird at one point that Cleopatra hires like a body double to like Mark Anthony to make out with. Like, it's so weird.
Hey mate, you're not wrong at all. I just like how nonchalant these guys carrying all this stuff are. Like the guy with the two skewers, like one in each hand. He's just like whatever. Every Wednesday, you know what I mean? This is just his job.
He's probably starving himself. He has to carry these ridiculous kebabs. It's like, how would you pull the food off? It's like, I struggle with normal kebabs anyway, mate. I'm not a big fan because I can never eat the bloody things. But this was just a whole mission.
Oh, Nathan.
Well,
Hey.
let's look at this film's poster.
Brenton,
Yes,
let's look at this film's poster.
but is it art?
Now, Nathan.
Yes.
This is a shit poster.
We've had some shit posters on this show, but good lord, it's just so generic, and the facial expressions of the three leads are some of the worst I think I've seen in a poster.
It's not the best. Look, it's not the best. At least it's got some color. We'll give it that. But, you know, look at Richard Burton.
What face is Richard Burton pulling?
Arms by the side, and he's just like, oh, look, she's cool. She's hot. Oh, yeah. It's just like the most like doofus face I've ever seen in my life. Oh, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? It's like absolutely ridiculous. And he's looking like directly down as well.
No.
He looks like he's looking down her top, to be perfectly
and like
honest.
Mark Anthony's looking down at her as well, just like looking so disappointed. Like, he just looks really sad.
Yeah. Caesar's just hanging out. He's like, hello. Come on, Eliza, I'll give you a lesson in diction.
Jesus.
And then Cleopatra's there, just having none of it. She's just like, can these guys just fuck off?
She looks like she doesn't even know they're there. She looks as though she's posing for a school photo, and these two guys like just creep up behind her. Like, it's just.
Could you imagine if like in our school photos, if there was like two, like Richard Burton and bloody Rex Harrison were just like standing behind us, looking down at us, like in our year 12 school photo.
In fact, I think I'm gonna. You know what, Brenton? I'm gonna make that the thumbnail for this week's episode. I'm just gonna stitch your head and my head on. Actually, I'll put your head on Cleopatra because it'll be funnier, and we'll make that the thumbnail for whatever highlight we choose this week.
Sounds absolutely perfect. But Nathan, like, I think they've got the right idea, including the three main characters of this film.
Yeah.
Like, I think they've got the right idea. But it's also this shit that going down the bottom, like these colored kind of graphite images of just rando scenes in the film. Like, it's
just random frames taken from the movie, and they're just like absolutely the most random frames you could have selected. Like, there's just no like the one on the bottom right is just like Cleopatra just in the bath where Caesar just like hanging out next to her. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, there's nothing marketing is what's drawing the person in.
look, I can't tell you, to be perfectly honest. And nothing's drawing them in because the actual title isn't actually it's the same sized font as the actor's name.
Yeah.
For all we know, the film is called Elizabeth Taylor.
I wish it was called Elizabeth Taylor. Like, I know. How would we fix this poster? How would we fix it? Like, what do we do?
All right, here we go. I reckon we have a poster similar to, say, like the 10 Commandments or Rocky 2, right?
Okay.
And you have the three main characters. You have the three main characters just standing there on like a backdrop, but they're like panels, right? They're three panels.
Almost like the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly poster as well.
Exactly. And so you have Caesar maybe with
a salad.
That's a terrible joke.
I'm so sorry, listeners. Please don't unsubscribe.
Caesar maybe with a color and like an image like in the background, sort of like a colored background. I'm not sure what that is though. I'm not sure what his one would be.
Yeah.
I think Cleopatra's one is in the middle. She's got like Egypt in the background, and then you have Mark Antony. Maybe, I don't know, with a chicken skewer in the background or something. But like three images, the three characters, and then Cleopatra, a historical epic.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I think that's way better, dude. It's like, well, go on, Brenton. Open up Photoshop. Get to it.
Don't mind me. Just give me a couple hours.
Title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
Cleopatra. You know what? I don't know if that's the best title.
Yeah, because also like the film, like yes, the film's about her, but also a lot of the film is not about her. Like she doesn't have that much more to do than any of the other leads. Like
Totally. Yeah, agreed.
Instead of like 3 men and a baby, we can have like 3 rules in a kingdom.
That's so stupid.
I know. Just like,
but I love it.
it's just, maybe, I don't know, like the rise of Cleopatra or something like that, or even like, you know, love triangles in Egypt.
Love by the Nile.
Or can we just call it Death on the Nile?
Yeah, why not? I like that. I do
Just
like
rip
that.
off Agatha Christie, just like, because we all know what's happening. There's a lot of death on the Nile. But like, you know, Cleopatra wasn't Cleopatra, so I guess we can't fault the film for that.
I mean, like, that's true. I like your idea. Death. We're just going to steal that title.
Death on the Nile. Bring in Kenneth Branagh. He's like, there's been a murder.
There's been a murder.
There's been a snake bite. It was the snake, I knew it.
Mark Antony killed himself.
Caesar, everyone killed him. I have done my job.
Farewell. Let us pass the power to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So if we look at the tomato meter, or the tomato meter, as you call it in the States, Cleopatra has a critical consensus of 62% with an audience score of 69, so pretty muddled.
Yeah, and like back in the day, this film didn't make much money. It was like the most expensive film I think ever made at the time. It cost like $31 million to make in 1963. Like that's crazy. And you can see why. You can see the money on the screen. But like it only made 57.
Well, it was making less than that at the time, I remember, and then it turned over and I think made a profit at some point, but it was still...
But yeah, but that's like the production budget. The production budget was 30. So like when you count marketing and all that kind of stuff, plus the stars taking the box office, it still lost money. So it's like, it literally almost bankrupted Fox. So... Ooh.
Well, Ian Nathan from Empire gave it a shit review and said, for 4 hours, this moody, glossy pantomime leadenly plods on, saying much more about the hubris and excess of old-time Hollywood thinking than the burnished glories of an ancient world. I couldn't agree with more. I think that was very eloquently put by Ian.
And I think this is also one of the last big epics made in Hollywood. I think this kind of woke them up to it, going like, oh, this shit doesn't sell anymore. Maybe we should stop doing these. It's like...
Enough of that. Beatrice has said 3 weeks ago, she said, Egyptian history or mythology? ?
That's the thing. Would you want to see like a Gods of Egypt take where it's like, you know, maybe there's like a lot of like magic in this kind of story? Like,
no one wants to watch anything associated with Gods of Egypt. And bloody Jeffrey Rush is in it.
Jared Butler would make a good Mark Anthony.
No, I feel like Jared would be a good Octavius.
Actually, yeah, and he keeps his Scottish accent. He's like, we've got to invade Rome.
He's like, we've got to find Mark. That sounded more like Schwarzenegger than like fucking Gerard.
Yeah, I'll get around it. A more mythological take. Hokunin wrote on YouTube, I hope she didn't drive all the way from Egypt to Rome on that extremely slow structure. And that's a good point.
Poor slaves. Like, those poor slaves. How long must that have taken? I reckon she would have got significant sunburn as well.
Yeah, that's how they correctly color cast. They just like put her in the sun for ages, just like...
There's like no sun, like there's no shade on that little, I guess, what do you call it, a float?
What do they do with all these props and all these sets like afterwards? Like they just give it away. Like that statue's probably somewhere, Brenton.
Do you reckon we could get that like Sphinx float? Do you reckon we could get that?
Yeah, but what would you do with it, mate? Like you wouldn't have it in the backyard. Like
I reckon I'd motorize it and I'd just like drive through the streets on it.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. Just like in the middle of like the harbour bridge. Just like sorry guys.
Hey man, why not? Econ Man said, part of the hype of this movie was the chemistry between Burton and Taylor, off and on screens. It didn't live up to any expectation.
It really didn't. Like, you couldn't really tell in this movie that they were like, if you had no idea, you definitely wouldn't have thought this movie was like, oh wow, they're so in love. This movie, maybe they did sleep together off screen. Like, you don't really get that from this, do you?
No, not at all.
Do you wish then, Brenton, this film was more sexy?
Like more romantic.
Yeah.
I wish I gave a shit about the romance.
Same. Do you reckon Anakin and Padme had more tension than these two?
I do. When they're rolling through those fields on Naboo, oh man, the chemistry's off the charts.
Oh, I'll tell you what. And lastly, Hot Retarded GX on YouTube wrote, now that was hot. Was it hot, Brenton?
No. I mean, it was probably warm. I imagine that Egypt is a warm climate.
I imagine so too, but like, nah. I don't think that was hot at all, mate.
Ah, well. Nathan had the final word. And that was Cleopatra.
That was Cleopatra, mate. We bloody went to the museum. We saw Elizabeth Taylor do a bit of a dance, and wasn't much of an exhibit, was it, mate?
It wasn't.
Now that we've spoken about the Queen of the Nile,
Yes.
let's talk about Feature Fridays with the Banter Boys.
I thought you could come up with a really good segue just then, but you just dropped the ball and just stumbled about, mate. Well done.
Cheers, buddy. We've released a new podcast this year. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. It's called Feature Fridays with the Banter Boys. It's much shorter than this one. and it's
You
all...
sound like a mother who's just like trying to recommend their child to another child. It's like, they're much shorter than the other ones. You'll certainly like this one.
But Nathan, do you know the biggest benefit of this show?
What?
Is that it's all about you. Not Nathan.
Oh, no.
You. Our listeners, our incredible audience who has supported us all the way for a few years. And we just want to repay that love with a show where we answer your questions, comments, and concerns. As well as that, we talk about movies today, Nathan. We don't hop in the time traveling machine. We talk about movies today and other topics today as well. This show is literally just about us getting more on board with our audience and just conversing over different topics. So, Nathan, the way you can get involved...
How, Brenton? How do I get involved?
...is that you just get online.
Oh,
you
fantastic.
just get addicted to your phone and you contact us via our social profiles such as Instagram, Twitter, even YouTube, or if you really want to get on to us with a crisp, nice email, as you said at the start of the episode,
Yes.
Feel free to just send us an email and we'll take all your topics under consideration. And yeah, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those other podcast services that we are on, and check out the new show, Feature Fridays with the Banter Boys.
Let us know, listeners. Have you guys seen this movie? Like, let us know if you film buds have put on the DVD and like go, let's see if Cleopatra holds up. Because oh boy, I don't know about you, mate. I had to watch this over 2 nights because it was a struggle.
Oh, I was the same.
Yeah.
I watched it over 2 nights. Yeah, absolutely.
Act
I watched
one,
the
act
last
two.
10 minutes, actually. So I watched it 2 nights, and then the last 10 minutes I was fading, so I watched that the next morning.
It's a mission. So like, you know, if you listeners are also finding it a mission, let us know on Insta. Write it on the YouTube comments, tweet at us. Let us know your favorite thing about this.
And if you have any other historical epics you want to suggest we watch, get in touch. Send us an email and let us know, because we love taking listener suggestions and doing reviews on those films.
Absolutely.
So get on board the banter train and
Toot toot.
let's go to the Nile.
We're all going to Egypt on our little boat.
Yeah,
Let's
why
set
not?
sail.
Why not?
Come on, Brenton. Off we go.
Well, until next week, Nathan and I will be practicing mummification on each other. So,
Oh no, Brenton, put down the toilet paper. No, not now, Brenton.
please, come on.
Don't scoop up my brain through my nostril. That's fucked.
Hey, it won't hurt. I swear.
Ugh.